Nick, it's time to think about abortions in stock and how to minimise the risk.
Yeah, so that's the time of year we're at. It comes around very quickly. So abortions, I guess the big question, whether you're no matter what sort of size enterprise you've got, is well, when does this problem turn into something that I need to be looking at? We always expect that we're going to get the odd hiccup and the odd loss of an unborn, but when does it actually start? When should I be starting to investigate and try and minimise this problem? Is it going to turn into an epidemic, or is it just a sporadic problem? And that's a very difficult question to answer as a veterinarian, but the typical numbers that we sort of throw around are, if your losses are between sort of 1 and 2%, then it definitely becomes economically viable to start looking at investigations. But on top of that, you have this scenario where you're losing a group of pregnancies in a very confined location over a very short period of time. So if you've got a mob and you've got quite high abortion rates in that mob over just a number of days to a week, well then that's a pretty good indication that we might have something contagious that's got the risk of going through a larger number of animals. So that's when you should be on the phone and getting the vet involved.
So what do? Do you wrap them up in plastic and put them in the deep freeze or something?
Well, freezing them is actually not such a great idea, but yeah, certainly we need certain tissues that we need to investigate that. So the first thing to do is definitively identify the dam if we can, because sometimes we need to take blood samples and things from the dam as well. As far as the fetus goes, a fresh fetus would be good, and the afterbirth if we can, and just kept in a cool environment rather than frozen, and obviously lifted from the paddock. Even if it's predated or scavenged a little bit, we can sometimes get the tissues we need. The important bits of tissue are placenta, and in particular the cotyledon, which is the little, it looks like the little bumps all over the sheep afterbirth. They're what we need. Fresh stomach contents are very good, so as intact an animal as we can, sometimes liver as well is what we need to be looked at. So yeah, these are the tissues that we need. Freezing them, of course, if we're looking at infectious causes, it can damage the organism that we're trying to find, and so just keeping it cool and avoiding major temperature fluctuations is important. Yeah.
So when you're doing this, of course, you should actually be very mindful of your own health.
Absolutely. The Brandenburg, the Salmonella Brandenburg problem has died down a little bit, although we still do, every year we're still getting little snippets of outbreak around the district, and that can be still in sheep farms, but also in cattle getting diarrhea in calves. And I think there's the odd case of Salmonella Brandenburg pneumonia even. So the organism is still around, and that's a real nasty bacteria, and humans are definitely susceptible. So when you're dealing with these situations, be mindful that not only could this be infectious to other pregnant animals, but also to yourself. So your own health and safety is important. When you're handling these tissues, try and make sure that you've got gloves on. Wash your hands thoroughly when you've been dealing with pregnant livestock, and removing the products of abortion, and either burying them or burning them after we've got the tissues we need, to avoid such organisms that are going to cause this problem getting spread far and wide. So making sure that that those products of abortion, the afterbirth, the dead fetuses, are either buried or burnt. Good bird control is great, because Salmonella Brandenburg, for instance, there was heavy implication that a lot of the cause of spread of that bacteria was through scavenging gulls and things, feeding on the afterbirth and actually shedding the bacteria from one property to the next.
Is there any tie-up with toxo and feral cats? Because that was...
Yeah, there is a bit of a linkage, but maybe it's not as strong as you think. So Toxoplasma is a parasite that it causes, as you rightly say, causes abortion. That causes abortion typically in two-tooth or younger stock classes. The reason that happens is that once the animal's been exposed, immunity is lifelong, and so that's what's less likely to be seen in older animals. The definitive host of the parasite is the cat, and so the little organism reproduces sexually in the cat's intestine, and then spores are shed through cat feces around rural areas, and then inadvertently through grazing, sheep, for instance, can be exposed to the parasite, and that's when it can infect the placenta and cause abortion. And I should mention also that Toxoplasma is a known cause of abortion in people as well, and so it's very important that we're mindful of that situation. When it comes to Toxoplasma being spread to people, it's not only worrying about getting exposure through contaminated soil where cats have been toileting, but we get cysts in sheep and cows and other mammalian species, so actually simply handling raw meat could also be a source of infection to people. So again, especially when we got human pregnancies involved, ensuring good hygiene practices and actually simply getting the doctor to actually take a blood sample and see if you're already immune is going to go a long way. So,
very good idea. Are there vaccines that you can use for the animals?
Absolutely. So pretty much all of the well-known bacterial causes of abortion, so we're talking Salmonella, we're talking Campylobacter, and the Toxoplasma, the little parasite we just talked about. There's vaccines available for all of them. I'm not saying that it's going to be economically viable to vaccinate every flock, or every flock in the country, and that's why it's important to get a diagnosis and understand what's happening in your district and what sort of risk profile you've got. Discuss this with your veterinarian, and then preempting protection where it's appropriate with vaccination is a very, very good thing to do. Toxoplasma vaccine, for instance, it's a one vaccine induces a lifelong immunity. But as in a number of vaccines, it's important which stage of the year is used. So you need to plan this and be in contact with both your local community and your veterinarian to understand what risk profiles you've got. For instance, if 3 out of 5 of your neighbours have had a salmonella abortion storm the previous lambing season, then it would be a pretty good warning sign that you want to discuss this with your vet and maybe particularly start looking at inducing immunity in your flock to that particular organism.
So basically it's a case of talk to your veterinarian and plan.
Talk to your veterinarian, plan, and open your ears and eyes, and it's a good indication for good commonsensical social interaction with neighbours in a district as well.
Brilliant. No, thank you very much indeed, because it is a pretty expensive thing to have going through a flock, because obviously, or a herd, for the obvious reasons.
Oh yeah, you can lose a lot of income before they've even hit the ground.